Hey everyone, it's Natalie. So I just kind of want to talk about how we feel as we go through this. I feel as though us women, are forced into a relationship with our in-laws. By the way, excuse the hair. It's been raining, so I just look like a hot mess. But anyways, I just feel like, our partners force us to be in a relationship with someone that's abusive. And the guilt that comes along with, not wanting a relationship with their parent can destroy your marriage, can destroy your relationship. Because you're constantly trying to understand why your partner is not sticking up for you or is not seeing the abuse that is going on. Now, luckily, my husband seen it. But the thing is he saw it for 22 years and didn't do anything about it until the 17th year. And I can tell you, I can't count on all my toes and fingers how many times, because it's been so many, after leaving his parents' house, the bickering, arguing, and crying on the way home about how his mother treated me and talked to me and disrespected me, and just like the creepy things that she was doing while I was there. She would do this thing, and she did it for years. She would start rubbing on my husband, giving him foot massages, back massages, just kind of doing this to his back, like, patting him on his back, rubbing his back, stuff like that, rubbing his face, just like weird, creepy stuff. And if you, as a woman, see, I've encountered many creepy people. I ended up having to put 7 people in jail for stalking me and dealing with creeps, because I modeled in my teenage years and in my 20s, and I would have people following me home, finding out where I lived and things like that. And I would have kept running into people at certain places, and I ended up having to press charges against people. And but if you ever encounter someone and you get that vibe that they're creepy, that creepy vibe, well, that's the same vibe that I get from my mother-in-law. Now, I understand when you have a young child and they're having growing pains and things like that, rubbing their back, massaging their legs, things like that, it's normal. But when a mother is continuously doing that up until the man is almost 40 years old, the creep alarm is just going off like crazy. And it's because of the enmeshment. And so I one day went to my husband and said, look, I don't know if you know this, but your mom rubbing on you and staring at me in my eyes and smiling and stuff like that, it really creeps me out. I don't appreciate her acting like your wife, when, especially since I'm your wife, I'm sitting there in front of y'all and she's sitting there smiling, knowing that it's upsetting me. And I just find it really creepy that you allow your mom to touch you like that. And he said, oh, she's been doing it for ever since I was a kid. She's been rubbing me and massaging me and everything since I was a kid. Every time I go over there, she always wants to rub on me. And I said, Jared, I'm gonna be honest. I said, through the years, it has made me feel really uncomfortable, and I am starting to find you unattractive because of it. And I have a serious question to ask you. I said, because of what's been going on year after year with your mom doing strange and creepy things, this weird idea came in my head, and I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Have you had sex with your mom? I asked him that. He looked at me bug-eyed and was like, what the hell are you talking about? You sound crazy. I said, Jared, the way that your mom treats you is like a wife. There's something called spousification and parentification, where a parent can treat a child like a parent, or a spousification is where they treat them like a spouse. And I said that when we are around your parent, I notice that your mom pays no attention to me, and she takes over my role as your wife, and before we're married, as your girlfriend. And she doesn't give me the opportunity to sit by you, hold your hand. If I kiss you, or if I'm holding your hand, she interrupts us. She does weird stuff. Like, even like, what I started to notice is that when we went on vacation, right, we went to Malaysia, and we went with his parents because his parents were living in Singapore. And me and my husband have this thing that we've always done, that was hold hands while we were walking, or if we're riding in the car. And so we were holding our hands, just having vacation, and we've been doing it for years. His parents know about it. But I've never seen his parents hold hands or kiss. And all of a sudden, she started holding her husband's hands and hugging him and all this stuff, things that she has never done before. And so I started seeing her mirroring the way that I was treating her son. And I was like, well, that's good. But I also found it really weird that she started doing the same exact thing that I was doing with my husband. And when you start looking into enmeshment, and you start to fully understand that the mother relies on their child for their identity, for their, I don't know what you want to call it. Their child is who they are. That's how they look at it. So they're selfish people who think that their child's main objective in life is to make them happy. And so what they'll do is mirror not mirror the child's significant other, but also mirror their child's mirror their child's behaviors. And I noticed through the years that his mother started mirroring our relationship onto her relationship. And I know, let me tell you 3 stories. Because enmeshment is so strong in these families, and the mother relies on the love and affection from their child instead of finding love within herself and finding the affection in her husband, she tries to find it in her children. And so what the children do is then, since birth, their mother has trained them to be a spouse to them, the child starts to live their life for their parent. So they don't go out dating. They don't hang out with friends. They're always with mommy and daddy. And I really feel bad for my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law never really had a serious girlfriend, not the way that me and Jared have been. And like the one girlfriend he had for a year, we thought they were serious and things like that. Well, one day we went to the house and we asked him, how's your girlfriend doing and this and that. And he's like, oh, we're not together. And just act like it wasn't a big deal. And Jared and I were like, what? What do you mean? Oh, yeah, we just decided we're not, I didn't really want to be with her anymore. But I think what happened is that girl got tired of him constantly wanting to be around his mother. So my brother-in-law, he's a pilot. He sometimes does get his own places in different places like Thailand and things like that to live. But the majority of the time, he's living at home and he's spending all of his time with his mother. Now, I know he's not a virgin, but that brings me to 2 people that I do know through mutual friends whose parents are narcissists. One is in their 40s, never had sex, never had a girlfriend, still lives at home, does everything mom wants. And then I know a girl who is in her 30s. She's still a virgin. She still lives at home. She works with her mother. Everything revolves around the mom. And this is because of the enmeshment, because they burden their child with the obligation of keeping the mother happy. And the only way that they can keep this mother happy is basically dating their mom. So it's incest. And just like a child predator grooms their child to normalize sexual behaviors as a child, the enmeshed mother grooms her children to believe that they have the sole responsibility of keeping that mother happy. And so they will do things like constantly be around their parents, constantly going over there, constantly talking about them. Maybe the mother might just show up to their house, show up to your house. She'll come in, she'll rearrange your furniture, she'll criticize your cooking. Anything that she can do to offend you as the partner, she'll do, because remember, an enmeshed mother believes that nobody can ever do anything as good as she can for her child, that only she does the best for her child, that you have no comparison, to her. And so you find your husband sticking up for their mother majority of the time instead of sticking up for you. And I think this is why it took my husband 17 years to finally stand up and say, literally tell them, you're not treating Natalie well. You haven't for a very long time. There's only so much she can take. Like, she's my wife. I have to go along with it. And I think back to all the times, because my mother-in-law was so jealous of me and that relationship, all the times that she tried to force my husband to break up with me and to come live with her and to spend time with her. She was constantly asking my husband to come over, to go out to eat, to go on vacations, to celebrate every holiday with her instead of celebrating some of that with my family side. But the way, they're predators. I mean, really, these narcissistic in-laws are predators. They prey upon their child and rely on their child for their identity, for their happiness. And if that child doesn't go along with making the mother happy, they are punished. And what they also do is, because they're enmeshed with their child, if their child is feeling depressed or anxious or sad or upset or whatever, so will the enmeshed mother. So the enmeshed mother will mirror that child's emotions as well. And they just do just really creepy stuff that makes you as a spouse really uncomfortable, because you want to believe that you're with someone, and that relationship that you form with that person, you end up forming your own identity as a couple. But when you're dealing with a person who is enmeshed with their parent, you don't get to figure out the identity or of who you are as a couple, because you have this enmeshed parent coming in trying to be part of that identity of the couple. They don't want their child to form their own identity, and they definitely don't want them to form an identity and figure out who he is and who she is as a couple. And I know that it took my husband many years to stop the enmeshment, and I know that slowly he did it. And I could tell that she knew that he was pulling away. And even though she tried to ramp up the abuse, she was doing really creepy stuff, ramping it up. I think she finally figured out that, he's not playing that game anymore. And so then the hate and the smearing of me started because I stole her son from her. She started lying and smearing my name, trying to make me look like a bad person because she wanted to make sure that everyone knew that there was no other better woman for her child than her, the actual mother-in-law, the enmeshed parent. But in this enmeshment, they'll do things like bribe their children with money and gifts and vacations and things like that just to have that time with their child. In a healthy relationship with a parent, the parent allows the child to form their own personality and identity by themselves. The parent is there to guide the child in life, not to live the child's life for them. So when you're dealing with an enmeshed parent who is literally living their child's life, and you come into the picture as a spouse or as a girlfriend or whatever, you really don't understand what's going on because you've never seen anything like it before. So you're trying to figure out if you've done something wrong, or are they just like a close family or something like that? That's what you start to think. Well, maybe they're just really close. But then over time, you see these little creepy things that the mother-in-law does. And I know that my in-law, she kept she would rearrange my furniture. She would criticize my housekeeping, criticize, that I'm not cooking this or I didn't cook. I mean, just like weird things. Now, she didn't do all the cooking thing all the time, but, she would always want to cook and have us come over. We could never cook and invite her over and things like that. She always had to have the control over every single aspect of our life. But I know that you guys can really relate to this. But, I can tell you that if you stand your ground and you start putting those boundaries down and you inform your husband of the creepy behavior, that the enmeshment can slow down. Right now, my husband is not as enmeshed as he was when I first met him. Because when I first met him, he was a mama's boy for sure. He also was the golden child, which I need to do a video on because the narcissistic mother can change the golden child and the scapegoat. When the golden child does something that the enmeshed mother doesn't like, what she'll do is she will take the scapegoat and turn the scapegoat into the golden child because she is not getting the enmeshment that she needs from that child anymore, or the supply that she needs from that child anymore. And when the child starts pulling away from the enmeshed mother, the switch will happen. And when that switch happens, the scapegoat is finally getting attention and will start going along with the mother, because finally, or it could be the forgotten child too, because finally the scapegoat isn't being scapegoated. And so then, I noticed because my husband got traded by his brother, they started blaming everything on him. He was a bad son because he was dating me. And that's the other thing is in enmeshment is that when you don't listen to his parents kept telling him, well, I can't even tell you how many times they've kicked him out of the family, but they threaten him, because they're enmeshed and they want him to live the life that they want for him, because he was going against it. they would kick him out of the family. They'd make him feel like a piece of crap. Blamed everything on him. Blamed that their family is ruined because of him and me. And, you know, it's just, I don't know. I really can't explain the creepiness of the enmeshment, because as a spouse, when you go over to your in-laws' house, the roles should not be reversed to where you no longer are the wife or the girlfriend, and the mother trades spots with you, and then you end up just kind of lingering. I guess you can say you end up being the parent in a way at that time, but you kind of linger in the background because no one's paying attention to you, because the mother is paying so much attention to their child. And the messed up part about it is that the enmeshed mother knows what she's doing, and she's doing it on purpose to get under your skin, to say, hey, ha ha ha, I'm the number one in my son's life, and I'm gonna prove it to you. And so, you know, I think one of the biggest problems is that the enmeshed mother constantly wants their child around them all the time. And as a spouse, that can get old really fast, because she's that type of person where if you're watching a movie with your husband, she'll come sit in the middle of you two and hold his hand. I mean, this literally happened to somebody. And so, I don't know. I just kind of wanted to talk about this, and I could do a way better video on enmeshment, but nobody deserves it. It's unhealthy. And if you're dealing with this with your husband, you need to bring it to his attention. And if your husband makes up the excuse that, oh, she's just a loving, caring person, you need to explain to him that it makes you feel uncomfortable. All right. Peace, love, and harmony, guys. Bye.